You can fake a lot of things in life: the smile, the confidence, even your happiness. But there's just one thing you can't ever hide: the mess that comes when a perfect marriage falls apart. Trust is broken, the lies begin, and the pieces that remain of a life you once knew fall apart. No matter how much you pretend everything is fine, the truth will always show itself, causing damage that can't be erased, only dealt with. Before we start this story, please subscribe so you don't miss the surprising twists coming up. Willie Tanner, 49, was well known and respected in the small southern town of Tifton. He owned a hardware store in town, Tanner's Hardware, which sold tools and supplies. It had served the community for over 20 years. Tanner's Hardware was known for its friendly service and wide range of items. Neighbors could find anything they needed, from a simple screwdriver to help with a leaky faucet. He usually sat at the counter welcoming clients with a smile and discussing many different topics. His life seemed perfect to everyone who knew him. Willie was married to Lynn Tanner, 48. They had known each other since high school, and they went to numerous church activities and charity events. But behind this perfect image, Willie was hiding a dark secret. Though he was seen as a good husband and citizen, he began an affair with 18-year-old Madison Kelly, who was still in school. Madison was attractive, smart, and often visited the store. Over time, they became friends, and their friendship slowly turned into a romantic one. Willie felt guilty, but also wanted something more as Christmas approached. The relationship was intense, with Willie feeling guilty but more drawn to Madison. In the days before his death, Willie seemed distant and distracted, trying to act like a loving husband while struggling inside. As Christmas neared, Willie began to change. He started coming home late. He was no longer his usual happy self. Lynn noticed all of these changes but thought this was because of the added stress of running the business during the holiday season. Friends and neighbors also sensed that Willie looked worried, like a man who was not very happy. It was December 22nd, 2019, just 4 days from Christmas. Tifton was quiet, with many people finishing their Christmas shopping or decorating their homes. At around 9 o'clock, Lynn Tanner returned home after attending the Sunday service at First Baptist Church. She assisted in preparing for Christmas Eve, which was being conducted in that church. Willie's truck was parked in the driveway, which seemed strange since he had said he was going out to pick up last-minute supplies for the store. The first thing she noticed when she got home was the smell of fresh pine from the Christmas tree they had decorated together. The tree still shone with colorful lights, and under it lay neatly wrapped gifts, some of which had her name on them. Still, something was not right. The house was very quiet, and Willie did not answer when she called for him. When Lynn entered the living room, she saw something that would forever be etched in her memory. Willie's dead body lay on the floor near the Christmas tree, amidst broken ornaments and shiny tinsel. His head was covered in blood, and a hammer lay nearby, stained with what she could only assume was her husband's blood. Lynn dropped to her knees, shaking as she tried to comprehend what she was seeing. Fear took over her, but she made herself stay calm long enough to call 911. Her voice wavered as she told the operator what was happening, with tears flowing down her face. "Oh my God, my husband isn't breathing. There's blood everywhere," she cried. The operator tried to calm her down. She ordered her not to touch anything and wait outside until the police and paramedics came. Within a few minutes, the quiet street was now filled with flashing lights of emergency vehicles. Neighbors peeped out from their windows, talking among themselves and guessing what happened. Lynn sat on the front porch, confused and dazed, unable to realize how her life could be changed so quickly. A few minutes after Lynn called 911, the Tifton Police Department arrived at the scene. Detective Nora Collins was leading the investigation. She is an excellent officer with more than 15 years of experience and is known for good instincts and a careful method. Her colleagues respect her, and criminals fear her. As she got out of the plain car, she immediately noticed the contrast between the bright Christmas lights at Tanner's house and the tragic scene inside. The living room showed a strange mix of Christmas joy and terrible violence, Christmas lights blinking on another tree and broken ornaments scattered across the floor. Willie's body was at the bottom of the tree, most of his head smashed in, probably from many hits with a hammer. Blood spots on the surrounding ornaments had dripped down onto the gift wrap and ribbons. Detective Collins carefully examined the scene. Thinking quickly as she tried to figure out what had happened, she took the hammer next to Willie's body as evidence. The crime scene was bloody, but it was also in a strange way neat. The ground around the tree was torn up, but outside of that area, everything was clean. It seemed like Willie had been completely caught off guard. Not much later, The crime scene investigators arrived, led by the smart and detail-oriented medical examiner, renowned for his good work, Dr. Philip K. Worm. He started examining the body of Willie. He saw there the severe injury to the head that probably would cause death right on the spot. He could estimate time of death from PM to midnight the previous day because the body was already stiff. Detective Collins told her team to collect every piece of evidence. They took the fingerprints, photographs, and also looked for other evidence that might lead them to the killer. They also talked with Lintana, who was very upset but managed to give a simple timeline of her morning and Willie's actions. As the investigation continued, Detective Collins strongly felt that this was a crime of passion. The violence of the attack showed deep anger or jealousy feelings that often cause such violent actions. But who could have hated Willie Tanner enough to kill him in such a cruel way? That was the question Collins was set on answering. Detective Nora Collins first decided to interview Madison Kelly. Madison was an 18-year-old high school senior and Willie Tanner's secret girlfriend. She participated in a wide range of extracurricular activities outside of class, including the school drama club. She had just won great acclaim for her performance as Tiny Tim in a local production of A Christmas Carol. But beneath the attractive facade, Madison was emotionally frail, a characteristic that had emerged over the past few months. Madison lived with her mother, Tammy Kelly, in a small but neat house outside of town. The Kellys were known to be private, and Tammy was well known in the community for being controlling and very focused on her daughter's looks, especially after Madison's father said he was gay and left the family. When Detective Collins arrived at the Kelly house on the afternoon of December 22nd, she found Madison in her pajamas and distressed over Willie's death. The room was a usual teenage room, full of poster pictures of pop stars like Taylor Swift and Ariana Grande. There were also indicators that reflected Madison's obsessive behavior toward Willie. Detective Collins found a framed picture of Willie without his shirt on Madison's nightstand, and her diaries had many strong entries about their relationship. During the interview, at first, Madison is cooperating, but when asked about the relations with Willie, the scenario turns emotional. She claimed having the affair and explained how in year she had close moments with Willie. She agreed she was so much into Willie that she even fancied living with him someday. However, she did not know that Christmas approached for Willie to suddenly be going away, and her scare was that he could stop their relationship. When Detective Collins asked Madison where she was at the night of the murder, Madison paused before answering that she was at home studying for her finals. The story was not strong, and Collins felt her feelings were suspicious. The crying and trembling of her hands betrayed how very stressed Madison was, though it was hard to discern whether it was from guilt or sadness. As the interview continued, Madison moved from being sad to being defensive. Then she said she had nothing to do with Willie's death and began to talk strangely, blaming a man she called Bob for affecting her actions. According to her, Bob had persuaded her to continue seeing Willie sexually so that he would not end up hurting her. Still, when Detective Collins asked for more details, Madison became unclear and confused. Detective Collins did not believe Madison's story. Her emotional problems, her fixation on Willie, and her poor alibi made her a top suspect. However, Collins knew she needed stronger proof before she could make an arrest. The investigation into Madison Kelly was still ongoing, and Collins was set on finding out the truth about Willie Tanner's sad death. The second person that Detective Nora Collins considered on her list was Lynn Tanner, who had been Willie's wife for 25 years. Lynn was a familiar face in Tifton, always involved in community and church events. She was a kind and friendly woman, always saying hello to neighbors with a smile and hosting gatherings at her home very often, even though it seemed like it was a happy marriage. Detective Collins knew Lynn had questioned whether Willie was faithful for a long time. Lynn had been preparing for Christmas. She was busy with the many church activities, including the Christmas Eve service at the First Baptist Church. Or others. Lynn seemed like a normal woman who valued the things that matter, such as her faith and family. However, she was always worried inside. Could it have been guilt that had Lynn's husband behaved coldly? Perhaps there was something that no one knew, something that no one ever suspected might be happening behind closed doors. Collins knew that Lynn herself had secrets. The detective sensed that Lynn was indeed hiding something. On December 22nd, the morning of the murder, Lynn went to church early, as she always did on Sundays, and didn't return until after AM. When she got home, she was shocked by Willie's body. In her conversation with Detective Collins, Lynn seemed very upset at the news but appeared to be holding it together. She said she was at church to prepare for the Christmas Eve service and knew nothing of an affair. Lynn's account of what actually happened was plausible, but there were aspects of her account that Detective Collins needed to question. Lynn refused to talk about her affair with Willie, and that only made him more suspicious. Did Lynn know of the affair? Did she kill her husband because she was angry over the affair? Lynn was not to be excluded as a suspect. It was a murder case with Willie Tanner's body, full of secrets, lies, and hidden feelings, a case that was really complicated. The detective had much to search through in order to find the truth, even if it was unpleasant. The third name on Detective Nora Collins' list was Tammy Kelly, Madison Kelly's mother. Tammy had a very controlling personality. People knew her in Tifton as being a perfectionist and extremely concerned with appearance. Her house was kept spotless after her husband left because he had said he was gay. She was active in the community and regularly planned functions at the local church, but Madison was the focus of her life. Tammy and Madison were always at odds with each other. Madison was young, beautiful, and had so much potential in her. Tammy, fearful and obsessed with her, went ahead to control Madison's life. She dictated not only her clothes, but her friends too. Everyone in the neighborhood knew Tammy wanted a lot of her daughter and tended to be very strict when Madison could not meet these expectations. Many said Tammy punished Madison harshly, though it was pretty hard to prove any of these stories, which might have been blown totally out of proportions on December 23rd. The day after the discovery of Willie Tanner's dead body, Detective Collins made his visit to Tammy. Tammy was at home with no expression on her face that seemed to reflect upon what happened the previous day. She welcomed Collins inside her living room, which was already decorated for Christmas, complete with a beautiful Christmas tree and a nativity scene. She talked calmly, yet there seemed to be some restraint in how she acted. Collins began the interview by asking Tammy about her relationship with Willie. Tammy was quick to praise Willie, calling him a good man and a pillar of the community. But when they talked about Madison, Tammy's tone changed and became more careful. She said she had been upset over Madison's recent behavior, pointing out that her daughter had started wearing makeup and a bra in the weeks leading up to the murder. When Collins asked Tammy if she knew about Madison's sexual relationship with Willie, something she had been trying to dodge, Tammy looked a little less calm. She denied any knowledge about the relationship, but confessed that she did notice that Madison started dressing up like a prostitute. In her words, Tammy said she attempted talking to Madison about this situation, but her daughter told her everything was okay. That Collins could not overlook is the possibility that Tammy's jealousy and need for power may have driven her to commit murder. Perhaps Tammy's biggest fear was that she wanted to dominate her daughter, and the scandal surrounding Madison's sexual relationship with a much older man. That gave her a motive. However, during the interview, Tammy was very calm and composed, showing very few signs of guilt or remorse. She was polite and courteous, but did not say much that was useful. As Collins left the Kelly home, she knew she could not ignore Tammy as a suspect. The investigation was getting more complicated as each suspect showed new possible motives and secrets. But without solid evidence, Collins was still trying to solve the puzzle. On December 24, 2019, one day before Christmas, the investigation took a new turn. It was a cold and grey morning in Tifton, Georgia. Detective Nora Collins and her team returned to the Tanner house to thoroughly look at the crime scene again, hoping to catch any clues they might have missed. While the team was searching the house, an officer noticed something unusual near the fireplace among the neatly wrapped Christmas gifts. He found a small torn piece of paper partly covered by the rug. It looked like a scribbled note in its appearance, but nothing more than that could be read of it. It said, "Dirty boy, meet me at," and then a time 1 p.m. and the initials MK. This grabbed Detective Collins' attention pretty quickly. These initials MK resembled an individual by the name Madison Kelly, who was Willie's secret lover. The time attached to the note matched the estimated time of Willie's death. Collins realized this could be the most crucial evidence that may link Madison to the scene at the time of the murder. Collins requested a forensic examination of the note to ascertain whether it matched with the handwriting of Madison. The note was forwarded to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation in Atlanta for further analysis. Collins went back to Madison's house in search of anything that would connect her to the note or the crime. Collins and her team discovered a notebook in Madison's bedroom hidden under her mattress at the Kelly house. The notebook contained disturbing entries about her obsession with Willie, including their sexual relations and the plans she made to secretly meet him. One of the entries, dated December 22nd, matched the date and time from the note found on the Tanner property. This new evidence was crucial. It not only showed that Madison was at the crime scene, but also revealed her motive, driven by jealousy and obsession. Collins felt the case was finally coming together, with all the clues making sense. Back at the station, the police found that the handwriting on the note matched Madison's. That was the clue Collins had been looking for. With this new evidence, the investigation quickly focused on Madison Kelly as the prime suspect in Willie Tanner's murder. Madison was questioned again. In this second interview, she tried to blame someone else, saying a boyfriend named Bob, whom she made up, had forced her to kill. In her complicated story, Bob was a powerful man who took part in strange secret rituals. Madison said Bob forced her into a life of crime and eventually told her to murder Willie. The police, however, didn't buy her story. Detective Nora Collins, who was in charge of the investigation, saw the truth behind the lies. Madison kept trying to blame others, but the facts spoke for themselves. The handwriting on the note at the crime scene matched Madison's, and her obsessive diary revealed her as a woman filled with jealousy and anger. Madison, however, faced with the evidence, tried to change her story again. Now, she told them that Bob was just a voice in her head and that she suffered from some mental illness. She said she was not in control of her actions on that murder night. The police still didn't believe her. They believed Madison was lying to cover for herself too. On December 26, 2019, Madison Kelly was arrested for the murder of Willie Tanner. She didn't put up much of a fight and seemed calm as she sat in handcuffs and was taken away. The small town of Tifton was shocked that a young woman with so much potential was accused of doing something so terrible. Though Willie's family was deeply saddened by his death, at least they knew the person responsible was finally in jail. But they will never forget that they do not have him as a son and brother for Christmas holidays. Madison Kelly's trial began in early February 2020. The courtroom was full as the prosecution and defense shared their arguments. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Robert Whitman, argued that Madison's crime was planned in advance. Whitman, 52, explained that Madison was too obsessed with Willie Tanner. He stated that it became very risky. He tried to call off their relationship, so she killed him. This crime, he says, was very cold and so well planned, it showed evidence. As the hammer was shown to have been brought there by Madison, defense attorney Karen Blackwell, 45 years old, is smart and compassionate. She argued that when the murder occurred, Madison was not mentally well. According to Blackwell, it was because Madison was fearful of losing Willie and was under a lot of pressure from their secret relationship that she experienced a psychotic breakdown. She asked the jury to consider Madison's rough home life and how it affected her mind. Blackwell described a powerless little girl controlled by an older man, who eventually crumbled under the stress throughout the trial. Willie's family sat in the first row, their faces filled with grief. They sat silently as Willie's double life was revealed before them and the world. The hurt from his betrayal was clear, but their great sadness for their loss was also clear. After thinking about it for several days, the jury gave a decision. On February 18, 2020, Madison Kelly was found guilty of killing someone in the second degree. The judge gave her a sentence of 25 years in prison, with a chance for parole after 15 years. The sentence got different reactions. Most thought it was a bit lenient on Madison since the offense committed was a violent one. Others said that this sentence was justified as Madison was young and suffered from some kind of mental illness. For Willie's family, there was now closure to this case, though the wound that would last forever remained open after the trial. Life in Tifton, Georgia, gradually began to return to normal, even though people still recalled the crime. Willie Tanner's hardware store, a local gathering place, closed permanently. The family felt they could not carry on without Willie to manage it. The closure of the store marked the end of an important chapter in the small town's life, one it might never recover from. Madison Kelly was taken away to a state prison and entered into a prisoner's 25-year sentence. Despite attempts during her trial to feign mental illness, doctors within the prison walls were unable to find any symptoms of schizophrenia or any other condition that might explain her actions. Madison spent her days mostly in solitude with not many visitors. Her bright future that once occurred has now become a vague memory, replaced only with the real tough life of living within prison walls. Lynn Tanner, Willie's widow, struggled to cope with the painful truth of his double life. Learning that her husband had cheated with a younger woman who was close to the family left her feeling deeply betrayed. The home they once shared, filled with memories, no longer brought her peace. Some days, Lynn would sit in front of the fireplace, lost in thought. staring at the empty chair where Willie once sat. The events that unfolded that Christmas season forever changed the town of Tifton. What do you think about this shocking case? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this. For more stories like this. For more stories like this.